The way you know that visual effects are on set is at the end of the take, two blokes come on with one grey ball and one silver ball and a colour chart, and you know that they're going to create something extraordinary.
The three goals that visual effects have is, first and foremost, reality. Second's grandeur. And then the third is world building.
We will probably end up at about 2,500 shots on the season.
There's not one scene that has no visual effects.
We all look at this. How can we use the environment that actually feeds the visual effect?
And it's all about not knowing where one ends and the other begins.
Walk 9 is a desolate planet, unfriendly to live on.
A place like the Sisterhood. The building itself was digital.
We lean into mostly stone, very muted shrubbery, lots of mist.
You want this desolate, kind of dangerous feeling.
I run a school for young women. We're not a threat to anyone.
I love the set extensions on Lankavale.
We found a quarry and huge mounds of sandstone that felt like they could be big mounds of snow.
Thankfully, we got some practical snow, so nobody had to fake being cold. It was freezing at the time.
Exciting stuff.
We've got these massive whales. We were able to manifest this midsection of the whale.
We'll build more of those digitally and then spread them out throughout the icy shores of Lankavale.
Lucis Secundus is a very different world. It's a very lush, beautiful imperial home planet.
It's one of our biggest environments. There are a number of different practical sets that make up the palace. And from there, we've expanded upon that.
The palace is a gigantic building. If I'm not mistaken, it's nearly 1 kilometer in width.
We also have the opportunity to show a bit more of Seleucia and the spaceport.
We've taken some inspiration from airports over water, created this really interesting, complex pattern, just making this center feeling that like everybody's coming from space to the spaceport and then everyone's kind of disseminating out from there.
There's an established visual language, but at the same time, we're 10,000 years before that.
In our timeline, Boltzmann tech has already been invented. So we're trying to give it a slight different look.
Shai-Hulud has been a topic of conversation from day one. Obviously, fans are expecting to see it, and we're trying our best to make sure that we live up to those expectations.
Our thinking machines are technology that we don't see in a regular Dune universe. Everything from what we're giving a peek into as far as the machine war and the actual battle machine that's there, to what we're seeing with Pruitt's toy.
That technology is forbidden!
It's Raquel's great work.
Animal's going to be a really dazzling experience.
I could almost equate it to a forest of light. The trees are meant to be our file system for Animal.
It's incredibly important that visual effects are in that conversation very early on because you have to know how to go about shooting that. How is it going to interact? What are the boundaries? What is the appropriate location to stage all of this stuff? At what point do blue screens take over?
When it becomes really fascinating is when the visual effects are having directly to do with the actor. Essentially, they're going to have like little dots on their face for CG to later take over.
The benefit of the tracking markers is to give us a point of reference to line up those markers to the CG model. We want to make sure that we're starting with something that is solid.
You're aware of my circumstances.
Theo is biologically engineered to be able to change shape. We're looking at Theo having a bit of an intermediary state, this almost amorphous being of sorts that then transitions, which allows us to really show how painful it is.
I love it. I get to really pretend and do the make-believe and do the imagining.
We had big shoes to be creating another story in another corner of the Dune universe, and we just had to ask the best from everyone working on it.
We have vendors all over the world. There's hundreds of different artists working on this constantly.
Because visual effects take so long to produce, it's really a trust of faith.
Sometimes what's going on in your imagination can be more extraordinary than reality.